Welcome along to another video on how to do things on your BMW E39 M5. Today we're going to be looking at the fan system once again and adding a little extra feature which allows the fans to be fully controllable to the temperatures which you desire. If you remember back to the previous videos when we fitted the fan shroud and SPAL cooling fans, we used a mechanical switch down here in the bottom hose which switches the fans on at 87 degrees and knocks them off at 82. That's all perfectly good and well, but I like to develop things and push them a bit further, so now we're going to use a fully digital electronic system with monitoring for the temperature, and it'll allow me to turn the fans on when I want them to turn on, not when a mechanical switch wants them to turn on. This is the fan controller we're going to be using. Cost about £6 off eBay. Used them before on Land Rovers, they worked pretty well. Last time I used one it was for preheating of a sump using an engine heating pad. And this one, it's range of -50 Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. If in cooling mode the temperature exceeds 110 degrees Celsius as measured by the K-couple, then it will automatically run the fans. However, the mechanical switch on the bottom hose will kick in long before then, as that's going to be staying in as a like an emergency backup, as well as the manual override fan switch in the cabin as well. So we'll have a look inside the car at where we're going to be mounting this. The interior on the E39 M5, it's pretty well laid out, as any M5 owner will know, and there's not really much space to start adding things in without it looking a bit hideous and cumbersome. Fortunately, this little unit is a perfect fit down here in the ashtray. Remove the crap that we don't need, and this will slot in here and then fit perfect like that, and then shut, completely inconspicuous, and you won't even know it's there until you open the ashtray and see what's going on, which gives you instant control over the fans, and you can adjust the temperature quite easily from here. So we'll look into getting the wiring into here, and then also where the K-couple is going to be mounted on the coolant side of the system. The first thing we need to go into do is to extend the wire on the temperature sensing K-couple, and the wire I've used is a ultra low resistance mono microphone wire, designed for microphones for your car telephone and that sort of thing. It's also heat resistant as well, so we'll have no issues with the engine bay in there. To extend it, simply cut the wire and join it. Take a temperature reading of your ambient temperature first, and also a resistance reading using a multimeter, as you want to make sure that once you've extended it you've still got the same resistance across at the same temperature. This one measured 13.8 ohms at an ambient temperature of 17 degrees. So when I joined the wire, checked it again, and it measured 13.9 ohms at 17 degrees, so 0.1 ohm increase in resistance. It's not going to have a negating factor, as the K-couple can be calibrated on the temperature controlling panel. Now we've decided on that we're having our controller in the ashtray, you'll need to remove the ashtray inlay. Simply open the ashtray hole, pull the lever, well, cover back, and as it doubles as a lever, then the ashtray will pop up. You can remove it, lift up the gear surround, pop out the switches, couple of screws in front of the gear surround and one under the hazard light switch, then that'll allow you to lift up the trim panel just enough so you can start feeding some wires through. So we're going to need to feed a live feed from a switched ignition source, a wire which will go to the back of the emergency fan override switch, then that will allow this to go to ground without having to run extra wiring into the engine bay, and then also the K-couple wiring as well. So you'll need in total 3 wires and then the K-couple wire. So what I've done is I've drilled a 10mm hole in the bottom of the ashtray, through the ashtray surround trim inside, through the little lighting trim, then through the bottom of it as well. The lighting trim still works, so there's no issue there. And then I'll feed my wires up through there, then there's plenty of space underneath it as well. So once the ashtray is shut, it will still work as intended. You'll be able to open and close it and it'll still move up and down inside. Once you've pulled your wires through, connect them up so your live from the ignition goes to VCC, ground is self-explanatory, that goes to chassis ground. S1 and S0 are the back of this relay, so they are the open contact of this relay. So you'll need to put a link between S1 and ground, and then S0 goes to the grounded side of the fan override switch. So when this little relay closes, then that will create the connection to ground, and then your K-couple sensor plugs into this little white plug here. Inside this module it should have a built-in memory system, so no matter how long it's been turned off for, it will remember its previous settings. So connect it all up loosely, then once we've put some power on, we'll be able to test it and make sure that it all works. Once you've routed your wires underneath the gear lever and put all the trim back together and screwed all the parts back in, leave enough slack on here so you can get to it and deal with it if you need to remove it. These wires will pop out at the side of the driver's footwell, then we can route them to where we need to get to them as well. So we'll need to find a ignition switch live, a good ground point, and then the back of the emergency fan switch, which is located up here. For our positive power supply, we're going to be tapping off the back of the OBD port. So pin 1, the green wire with a white trace, is switched ignition live. For the ground, we'll just use a ground point up near the EWS module, and for the output to switch the fan on and off from the digital module, we'll be using this wire which goes to the fan relay and it switches it to ground. Therefore this leaves in place the emergency override switch and the mechanical switch in the engine bay, but also allows us to use the digital module to fine-tune the on and off temperatures to what we choose for the fan to operate at. To route the K-couple through, we're going to use the rubber grommet behind the mast cylinder, which we've used for previous items, and that will allow us to then route the wire along the existing wiring channels down towards the side of the radiator, where we can connect it as required. Don't try shoving the K-couple through from the back of the dashboard, you'll only end up swearing a lot and struggle. Stick an old piece of wire through the grommet, feed plenty of it down, then go to the back of the dashboard and locate it, pop a bit of tape around it, then you'll be able to gently pull the wire with the K-couple attached to it through the bulkhead. Once you've decided where to mount your K-couple sensor for the panel display, I've cable tied mine onto the back of the fan switch housing, then it will be getting a reading from that. Then you can put everything back together in the engine bay, put all your pollen filter system back together, put your intake duct in back together, then you are ready to start the car up and adjust the fan temperature on and off as required. Now the system's fully functioning, the coolant temperature is 18 degrees, the fan is set to come on at 86, then I've set it to knock it off once it reduces the temperature by 4 degrees Celsius. So when it gets down to 82 it'll knock it off. And if you want to test it, simply press the set button, wind the temperature all the way down, then once the temperature which you want it to be set at gets to 4 degrees below whatever it is showing, so in this case once it gets to 14 degrees, the fans will come on. And then you get a little output LED telling you they've come on, and as you can hear in the background, the fans have come on. Then above 18 they've knocked off again. So that's the fan system tested. So if we set the temperature back to 86 and we can leave it there, then it's fully adjustable on the move. So if you're doing a track day, you want your fans to come on a bit sooner, you can do. Or if you're just doing a normal drive somewhere and you want your fans to come on a little bit later on than what you would do on a track day, then you can as well. So we'll set them back to 86. Then that's that done. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully it's inspired you to add a little fan controller to your electric fan setup if you went down that route as well. Keep an eye out in the future for more videos that will be coming. Towards the end of the year I've got some big maintenance planned for the engine. We're going to be looking at doing the rod bearings, which is a massive job. And then depending on what we find in the engine sump, if we find bits of plastic, then we'll also be continuing that job to do the chain guides, which is an even more in-depth job as well. So if we get to that point, then there's definitely going to be a video, as there's plenty of guides online but there's no videos on how to. And fingers crossed it won't be that bad. As of when I've had the sump pan off before, I found no bits of plastic in it, but that were about 10,000 miles ago, not long after I bought the car. So 4 years down the line we'll see what happens after multiple track days and plenty of heavy hard driving. So thank you for watching, and subscribe to my channel, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and look out for more things to come in the future. Thank you.